this week, we're going to do a worksheet today, online Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, you're going to need your math book. I'll remind you when it gets closer anyway. And then Friday is going to be an online piece there. You'll have a quiz next week, just kind of a heads up. Okay. Chapter 7 continues our conversation with those transformations, though, okay? So let's take a few minutes of notes here. Two figures are very good, congruent. If the second can be obtained by the first. Congruent means they are the same size and same shape. Okay? And the three that we can use are translation, or in other words, like a slide, a reflection, like a flip, or a rotation, a spin. Translation, reflection, rotation. Out of the transformations we learned in chapter 6, which one is not up there? We learned 4 in chapter 6. We only listed 3. Which one did we not list up there? Courtney? Nope. Translation was a slide. Reflection was the flip. Rotation was the spin. And then what was the last one we did? Or what happened to the shape? It got smaller or bigger, right? Which was dilation, okay? So we are not going to use dilation today because congruent means they're the same exact size and the same exact shape, okay? So on a translation, on a reflection, and on a rotation, the length is the same. Every single one of these blanks is length. Because it's so important to understand, no matter if you spin it or flip it or slide it, it does not change size. It does not change size. Okay, so what does this mean for us? Example number 1. Determine if the two figures are congruent by using transformations. So we look at our two triangles. The two triangles are congruent because a blank followed by a blank will map XYZ onto RST. You have 3 options: rotation, reflection, translation. Which of those am I going to have to use in order to get XYZ to match up perfectly mapped onto RST? Bryce. Rotation, I would agree with that. A rotation, if we spin it upright, right? Now, what else are we going to have to use? Courtney? Now, if you reflect it, you're going to flip it. Translation, you're just going to want to slide it. You just want to slide it over. Remember, if you reflect it, it's going to flip. It's going to face the other direction. So today, all you have to tell me, you only have 3 options: rotation, reflection, translation. How do I get them to match up? Determine if the two figures are congruent by using transformations. Everybody look. The two quadrilaterals are congruent because, what would I have to do to get those to match up, Liana? Very good, a reflection. I usually draw like a line right here, so I know if I flipped it over this line, it would absolutely match up because a reflection would map one onto the other. A reflection would map one onto the other. Okay. I want you guys to flip it over and try example 2 at the top, all on your own. And then I'm going to ask somebody for their answer. See what you get for example number 2. Are those two congruent? Why or why not? It's almost hard to fill in the because, isn't it? Are those two triangles congruent? Why not? Yeah, they're both triangles, but they don't look the same, do they? So the two triangles are not congruent. They are not the same because, oops, they are different triangles. Bless you. They are not congruent. It doesn't matter if you rotate, if you reflect, if you translate. It doesn't matter those things because they're two different looking triangles. Okay, ready for example 3? What transformation could be used if W is the preimage? This is where we start. We start with W, and M is the image in the logo shown. Are the two figures congruent? So if I start with W, can I do something to W to get it to match up to M? Jack, what do you think you could do? Rotate it? Yes? I would agree with him, don't you think? Yeah. If I like put a dot right here, well, maybe I even put it on the bottom of my, or the top of my W, and I spun this around, it would look like an M like this, right? If I spun it this way. What's another thing I may have to do to get it to match up perfectly? We rotated it. Reflect. Now reflect is going to flip it. Translate. I would probably translate it. So are the two figures congruent? Yes, they are congruent. Because yes, they are congruent because a rotation and translation will map one onto the other. Most important that you tell me rotation and translation. Okay, I want you to try number 4 all on your own. I'm going to give you time to think. You're going to do the same thing here. What transformation could be used if Z is the preimage? So start with the Z, and you're trying to get the letter N. Are the two figures congruent? You should have a sentence just like you did on example 3. You should have a sentence just like you did on example 3. Start with Z. Remember, someplace, if you say they're congruent, you're going to have to use the words reflection, rotation, or translation, or maybe a mix of them. Somebody I haven't heard from, can you tell me what you wrote for your answer on example 4? Zayden.
I guess they are congruent because of
Okay. Do you guys agree with him? If you spin it and then you might have to slide it, I like how you included that translation. 100%. Okay. Great answer. Yes, they are congruent. What does congruent mean again? Same size, same shape. Very good. Because a rotation and translation will map one onto the other. Okay. Your homework today, you have to write sentences. Okay, it's not long because I know you guys don't absolutely love writing sentences. So it's going to have two shapes, and you have to tell me, are they congruent, and how do I get them to be congruent? If they're not congruent, then you just say no. Okay? We will be around to look at that, but you got to have a sentence written. We're not going to give you credit for it if you don't have a sentence written. Cool? All right, let me get you your worksheet.